think if you're going to run any business, it's very important to understand how money works. We got the deal to do the launch of Orange in Kenya. So Telcom.
To do the launch.
So
within
Telcom,
year one.
This is 6 months of operation. I'll tell you, have a rich friend. The contract amount is 46 million shillings. And that was the first time I was like, okay, this is wild. This thing was so tight. When Jay-Z came to Tanzania, they called us to come and be the act that plays before Jay-Z.
Doesn't matter how hard you work, the biggest leg up you can get is coming from a rich family.
Man, money goes to where money is.
Yeah.
The person who already has money picks up the phone to another person with money. I can't tell you, Ati, those people saw us and saw, this is the best, most experienced. No.
Yeah.
They gave their fellow rich person the gig.
What happened to Code Red?
2 things happened. One,
this is Financially Incorrect, your favorite podcast about money stories and money journeys. I am your host, Barak. This week, I have none other than a creative entrepreneur and co-founder of Mookh, George Gachui. Welcome to Financially Incorrect.
thank you, Barak. Thank you.
You know, 2 years ago, at this point in time, nobody knew who this podcast is. So it's good to that you came in and was like, no, I know the podcast. I've watched a couple of episodes. I've seen a bit of it.
If you
it's relatively
if you
cool.
care about money,
Yeah.
it's important to find the places people
Talk about it.
Yeah.
That's a good way. That's a good way to
And
describe
so
it.
I have
Yeah.
seen the good work you've been doing, and
Thank
congratulations
you
for 2 years.
for getting to 2 years. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this should be like episode 93 or 94.
Mad.
So we're like 6 away from getting to the 100 mark. 100 money journey stories, and now this week we get to do yours.
Let's talk money.
Yeah. All right. So my first question, right?
Yes.
If I was a genie, or let's say a genie comes to you and says, so for the year 2025, I can give you 2 things. In one side, either you'll have all your financial goals of 2025 met by December 31st of 2025, or you'll have all of your emotional needs met by December 31st, 2025. Which option do you think you're going to take? And by emotional needs, I mean here that you will be absolutely content, regardless of what you have in your bank account. You will have joy and peace and love and all the good things that we look for in this life. Which option do you think you take?
I'd have to take the first one because I think I'm already at the second one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we got to the second one sometime in 2024 or
Okay,
earlier, and
okay.
so I'd go for this financial peace of mind.
Yeah.
That would help. If somebody can solve all the money problems,
For you.
my emotions will be okay. They will fix themselves. If the
Interesting.
money fixes, if
Interesting.
someone fixes the money. Yeah.
Of all the answers I thought you'd possibly give, I didn't think that would be one. So now I have to ask, how did you attain, I guess, emotional content?
Man, you know when someone says like a sad thing
Yeah.
at the beginning of the podcast.
No.
I think you need to be broken emotionally to be able to then truly find what I'd call emotional peace. The pandemic was a really tough time, especially for us in our industry. So we primarily serve the event industry. And when we started the platform in 2015, we initially served multiple avenues or multiple creative industries. And from our experience looking for money and talking to investors, everyone told us, focus on one thing. Be the king, the master of one thing before you diversify. So we focused on events and we turned everything else off and decided to focus on events. And 2 years after making that decision, the pandemic hit and there were no events for almost 2 years straight, which meant no revenue, which meant no business. Relationships broke, things happened. And in the coming out of that slump, I ended up doing a lot of personal discovery. And that's where I realized what's important to me, what I like, what I need, what is love. Out of that, I got a daughter. So a lot of things have happened to get me to the point where I can say I am emotionally content and happy and able to continue to do things with the same passion I had pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Two questions I want to ask. So when you're talking about, the pandemic hitting and you're saying you have no revenue, you have no this, like, do you mean 0, 0, 0, 0?
Go below zero.
Yeah.
Go negative.
Like now
Where
you're getting savings and now you're
removing, then you're even borrowing.
Yeah.
Because when the pandemic hit, there's two types of people. There's, if you worked in a company and you are now told, go home and don't come until we're done,
Yeah.
you'll be like, nice, I get a break. But if you're an entrepreneur and you're building your own business, the first thing you're in is denial. Right, so you're like, oh, they said this weekend we can't have gigs, so maybe next week will be okay. Then maybe next month will be okay. Maybe what we need to do is build a solution for online events, because then maybe guys will want to go online. So you spend the first 4 months, instead of putting on a floater and staying afloat, we started digging, and we're like, go into whatever we have, keep the developers working. And by the time we were reaching the realization, I think pandemic started March.
Yeah, March 2020, yeah.
October is where we were like, my guy can't breathe anymore, because now you're in negative and you still owe money, because now the server guy wants his check because you're still using the server, right? And for our business, which was not funded, I don't have a bank somewhere that's putting money in us. It was purely revenue driven. So when there's no event and no revenue, we were literally spending money we didn't have. So literally down to negative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, that must have been, an experience and a half. And the next question I ask you around the emotional content and getting there, do you think that's a level that one reaches and attains it, or is it something that's continuous? I guess I'm asking because you're talking about having to go through the pandemic. So now I'm like, okay, so do you feel like you hit rock bottom and there's no more rock bottom that you can ever get to, or do you think like 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now something can still happen and still break and shatter whatever records you thought you had reached previously in terms of getting this level of self-discovery?
I think the one thing that pandemic taught us is that we don't know nothing, right? Man, for sure, something else is going to come. And I think emotions are a rolling thing. As you develop, as you mature, as you grow, as you experience, you also then, you develop, it's like Nairobi character development. You start somewhere and then you start to know how to see the red flags as you go along. And maybe the fifth one won't hit you as hard as the first one. But you can't assume that because I've gone through 2, I won't go through it again. So I think I am definitely more prepared for anything can happen, including crash and burn, which is not something we thought about before. Before we're like, see, we're in control. See, as long as we can do X, Y, and Z. But now you sit and you realize some things can happen out of your control. This is like Bible times. You can wake up and just, there are locusts.
We're revolution. We are on revelation. We're in revelation.
Anything is happening, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And for me, that's why even before financially thinking, it was important to get emotionally strong again.
Right.
Because entrepreneurship especially is a battle. And so if you don't come with all your heart and all your mind, there are things just here that will take you out for sure.
So what did going through that and that experience, what has that done for your emergency fund, assuming you have one or assuming you set one up thereafter? Where this question is coming from as well is I remember, pre-pandemic, having discussions with my mom around, setting up emergency funds. And I remember the rule of thumb, I think, was you want to be able to operate for 3 to 6 months without any income and be fine. But I wonder now, post-pandemic, did that change? First of all, did you subscribe to that rule of thumb? And has it now changed how you put together your emergency fund?
Let me tell you a funny story. During the pandemic, a friend of mine, so it has happened and we're now sitting there figuring things out. He's also a business person. And this guy had 9 months of runway.
9
for
months.
himself and his business. 2 separate funds.
9 months.
9 months. He was like, I'm good for 9 months. We can keep going. We can keep the office, can keep the employees. I don't think I could have gone 9 days with what I considered my emergency fund. And this stems heavily from how I kind of was financially, mentally trained. I came from the entertainment industry, which is a heavy cash industry, right? So as long as you have talent, as long as you're still hot in the game, every week
This
cash enters, right? So you don't really think about an emergency. Maybe next week you might want to hustle 2 gigs because there's like a thing you want to buy. And so I was so trained, and I've mentally been always trained into we can make money every week or every day, that you don't think too much about an emergency fund. Not making money for almost 2 years, let's say a year, before then even now starting to diversify income, but not making money for a year was scary, right? Because then it's like, even the things I know how to do, I can't go out and do. So that was actually the thing that opened me up to set up a fund, start putting money in this what do they call it? Life policy.
Right.
How much is it? Where do you get it? What is the form? What do I need? Let me put that. So that actually is the thing that opened me up to now starting to say I'm putting money aside.
What do you think? I mean, where you're seated now, what do you think? First of all, if you can share. So even this 9-day runway that you had, how much was it? How much did you have where you're like, okay, even at that point with the mindset you had that this was an emergency fund? And then the second question is, with where you're at now, what do you think is more important in preparing for disaster in that way? The money you've set aside or your mindset?
How much did I have? Literally the Feb salary. Whatever my Feb salary had
That
been
was your
for
emergency.
That was the money in the account left.
And
so now it was the one for like, now I've paid rent. What do we do next, right? The thing that's important for an emergency is mindset. And for me, mindset is also pre that emergency. So one of the things I had to do post that pandemic, figure out how you can live the same, whether you're making the money you currently make or more or less, right? How do you kind of like balance
live a life that you
live your life within a means that is comfortable, without having to compromise too much. So like for me, it was like move out of the Nairobi border
that you are in.
Just jump outside Nairobi kidogo, because the value of money, like Major said over here, the money of money when you just move out of Nairobi kidogo goes up. So the same money I was spending for an apartment in Kile, if I go to Ngong, I can have a family home where my kid can have a playground, and I can live comfortably, and I can grow some skumas in a kitchen garden. That idea of changing what is important and how much you actually need to say, I'm good for the month, that was the first place. And then from there, now you can be able to say, now I understand how guys have 9 months runway, because I don't need my full salo as my emergency fund. Now I know if I have 80, 90K, give or take, every month, so times 6 months, like a 500, I'll be able to live until the point where I can figure something out. But that bringing things down, because right now you have people run be like, man, now the 300 that I spend every month, if you try to do a 6-month run with that, you're sitting on money. So I think the first thing is to balance your mindset and kind of like live within a means that is affordable with or without your income.
Okay. What was money in your house like when you were growing up?
It was there, but it was not a lot. Both my parents were employed, right? So they worked, they got a salo. Although my dad was in tourism. And tourism, I think today they call it the gig. They call what we do the gig economy. That time they thought it was a prestigious job, but really he worked in the gig economy. Because he had a kasalo, but then he would travel. And once you go on a safari, you come back, now you have dollars. And then that now becomes the money you invest and you do blah, blah, blah. There was money coming into the house. I don't have any memories of a time, we were kicked out of the crib or we were kicked out of school. those were provided. But it wasn't at the, Mom, I want what did you used to get? A Sony something, Sega Mega.
Yeah,
I want a
and
Sega
the
Mega, and
first
tomorrow it
PlayStation,
comes.
right.
That this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
It was, go out and play with your neighbors, go do this, go do that. But it was literally stuff is provided, come home, feel free at home, eat, there's good food here. There's this, if we need to go somewhere, if you need some drip, it'll be provided, but it wasn't abundance.
Okay.
Yeah.
What didn't your parents teach you about money?
I guess how to manage your own money. So the thing that a lot of parents do with their kids is you assume your kid is going to squander money. So what you do is you don't expose
starve them of it.
You don't expose them to it, as opposed to saying, when you get money, this is what we do. It's good to do X, Y, and Z. So I would see some things. My dad would go buy a piece of land. It would sit somewhere. Then after a couple of years, he'd flip it and make some chums off that. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And he always had a friend who has the 5 million that they want to buy a kashamba that will. So then I was like, okay, these guys have access to some people who can flip the assets they have into money and that. But the thing they never taught you is like, when you get your money, here is what we're doing with it. And it's a challenge I have with a lot of African parents. Even now when I sit with my uncles and them, I'm like, you guys bring us into things too late. So by the time you're trying to say, oh, you're not being responsible with the family, blah, 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 you haven't taught me nothing. You wait for me to reach 25 for you to start letting me into the circle. It's too late.
Yeah.
And so I think just that being taught how to handle money, how to make money. So they always assume, I don't know if they assumed we were being taught in school or whatever, but I can't recall a conversation where my parents sat me down and said, you're going to need to start making money. This is what life costs. This is why we earn this and this. This is how we pay our rent. There was never that conversation.
So I think it would be safe to assume then even your pursuit of the degree that you then went on and studied at USIU, which I believe in finance and information systems, had nothing to do with the pursuit of money.
No. So actually, I think also because of living in a house where it's like things are provided and they're comfortable, you also become comfortable. I feel like if you live in a house with hustlers who are always looking for chums, you also become a guy who's looking for chums. I was never that guy who was like, man, I wish I had my own cash. But my first job, I was 16. I'd finished high school. I'm waiting to go to uni. My mom goes walking at Jaffrey's, the way everybody goes walking at Jaffrey's.
Every evening.
And if you go walk at Jaffrey's, people don't talk. They just walk around in circles. I don't know how my mom starts talking to the people who are walking, but she comes one evening and she's like, I met this guy at Jaffrey's, and he owns a company over here in Kileleshwa, so we're going to go to his office on Monday. He's going to give you a place that you can be working. So I go, this guy asks me, oh, what are you interested in? I'm like, I'm just figuring it out, blah, blah, blah. So the guy owned an alcohol company.
An alcohol company?
Yeah. A wine company and an aviation company. So he's like, which of these two things would you want to intern at? So I'm like, the aviation company sounds nice.
Right.
Maybe I'll want to become a pilot or a thingy. So it's like, dope. So you can start tomorrow. You work every week. We'll pay you for your expenses of transport and nini, 5K every month. So about a K a week in transport and nini, and like a G extra. So I'm like, cool. Next day I go, we enter this guy's S-Class. I sit in the back with this Mzungu guy, and he drives us to Wilson. And we go to Wilson. He introduces me to the guy who runs the company. He's like, yo, this kid is going to come and work over here. Put him somewhere. He's here for the next 4 months. So I get assigned to waka old mzee. Nani chukua huyu kijana mfundishe kazi. So now me have been brought by mwenye kampuni. So the employees are all just like, whoever this kid is, treat him nice. This guy might help us get. And I get put in the propeller department. We basically fix planes that go to Masai Mara, hit a bird, and comes back with a bent propeller. The plane needs to work tomorrow. So tonight we take the propeller out of the plane. Thing has like 1,000 screws. You can't lose even one. So you're just there, then you carry this thing.
So it's manual. It's manual labor.
Like literally, I used to scrub. So before they fix the propeller, you have to remove all the paint on this thing, so that when they weight and they do those dimensions, it's exact. So you take steel wool and acid, and you wear some gloves, and you scrub this thing. And this was and the guy themselves just like, Kijana, how many hours una scrub propeller moja? So you're just there. And for 4 months, I was over there. Now, there was parts to this. You finish the propeller, you reinstall it, you have to go test it. So you connect some to machines and you enter the plane.
And we
fly over here and we do a test flight. So I do a test flight once a week, and the Somalis have gone to deliver Mira. Someone tried to shoot at their plane. That's coming to you guys. Hey, so-and-so has hired the private jet that this guy's on. So now you're preparing the private jet to go out, make sure the thing is oiled. And so the exposure of that job was like crazy. But also I was being paid money that I think out of the 5K I was being paid, I maybe used to use like 2K on my expenses. So now all of a sudden I had chums on the weekend. I didn't really need to ask my folks
for money anymore.
Can I get money to go to Westie, to go to chill at Electric Ave? Nothing. Yeah, just choma 5 sock. My boy has a moti, you weka 100 bob, you weka 100
Those days
bob.
fuel was 60 bob.
Was cheap. So yeah, we have fuel for 2 days of rows. And literally that's the first thing that exposed me to actually, if you have your own money, the only thing that thing gives you is that freedom of, I can wake up and go do things. And from there, I just started being like, I need that G a week. I need to find a way to make that G a week. And that is how then my relationship with money started. So even when I was joining USAID, it was like, let me learn something to help me learn how to manage this G a week so that I can be able to multiply it and that, which is how I chose finance. I used to like comps. I was like, IT might help.
Put those together.
Put them together.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, have you found it useful? I guess it's sort of fast forwarding a bit, but have you found the degree that you actually studied very useful in your endeavors?
Extremely.
Yeah.
Extremely. Man, I think if you're going to run any business, it's very important to understand how money works. Just understand the basics. You don't have to be the accountant, you don't have to have a CPA, but just know when they present these books to you, you need to know what they mean. You need to be able to understand business principles. What kind of business are you? What kind of business style are you doing? You need to understand marketing principles. So that whole understanding of business was one. The IT side was dope because now I run a tech company. I'm not a developer, but the fact that I think tech, I think systems. I have understood systems and how systems operate. So then I'm able to build systems, which is what we do.
Okay.
So it's been extremely helpful.
Okay. Let's talk about how you get to manage Code Red. Does that happen before the 2 million shillings or after the 2 million shillings?
Before.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So first of all, just for context, for the people who, I guess the what would they be?
There are many generations that this will not be relevant
that may not know who Code Red was. So just give context to that and then how you even end up managing Code Red.
So Code Red was the hottest DJ unit out of East Africa, arguably. And you can go and ask your uncles. They'll tell you this story. So my cousins were in Code Red, right? And so me, I'm in uni. And I'd grown up with my cousins. They owned a club, so that's where they learned DJing. And I would spend my holidays at their house. So I knew these guys. So now I'm in uni. These guys are getting hotter and hotter. And they start to throw parties. And the first thing I did was I just used to go to the bashes, and I'd be that guy who says, I have my whole squad from USIU, right? I can bring the USIU squad. I can bring the USIU squad. So I got into that, and I just used to hang on quite a bit. And then somewhere just before I finished uni, Code Red has some drama between the DJs. So anywhere where you have a lot of talent, you're just waiting for egos and things to just clash.
Yeah.
So they have one of these big clashes, and half the crew leaves and goes to set up a rival unit. And so my cousin is left with a couple of guys, and he's now trying to figure out what to do. So I catch him one day, random midweek. He's there trying to scheme. Now what are we going to do? We need to figure out some fresh bashes. So me, I'm like, they were hot on radio.
Yeah.
At that
What was it? Sorry, just to interrupt. But what was the business model for Code Red at that time?
Literally, it was a bunch of DJs who hung out together and get gigs together and throw bashes.
That was it.
At some point, they got hired by Capital FM, so they had a radio gig. So they did radio shows, which brought them popularity. And then they had some sponsors who would pay for like a monthly party.
Okay.
But literally, it was just DJs together,
okay.
collectively just out there hustling for gigs.
Okay.
And so then I come in and I'm like, you guys have radio, but radio is everybody, right? You shout this thing on radio, who knows? So I told my cousin at the time, I'm like, I can be able to get you, how many people do you need at a party? It's like we had like 5 sock guys at a bash. The thing is profitable. So I'm like, dope, me I can do a party for 5 sock people on just SMS. Send me airtime. That time, I hope SMSs are still one bob. He stopped checking.
Do they even cost money now?
I told him, send me airtime.
Yeah.
So he to me had me 5 sock airtime.
500 messages.
I drafted a SMS and I even sent him his version. I'm like, you send this to your friends, me I'll send this to my squad. I said, hey, what's up? This Saturday, there's like a private party. My boy DJ Star's gonna be DJing. If you're down, come through. It's going to be at what is now Nairobi International School. Used to be a bar called Radley's, right? So it had like a swimming pool. So we've gone and convinced Mrs. Lee. Shout out to Mrs. Lee. She's the headmistress.
At NIS.
Always been funky, man. So when we tell Mrs. Lee, yo, we want to do a party over here. It's a private thing. A couple of people. We've just sent some SMSs. Yeah. She's like, dope. Literally, this was like Tuesday. Saturday.
Were you charging people for the party?
No.
Just come for the party.
You come. So we cut a deal with Mrs. Lee. We're making a cut off the bar. We're doing the food, blah, blah, blah. So
also, when you said that they were making, it was profitable, it was the money they were making from everything else
that
around the 500 people
gig.
being
correct.
There.
So if you got 500 people and they bought drinks at the bar and they
eat
this
food,
thing made money.
Right.
My guy, that party rocked. Like Nairobi came out.
Right.
And everybody was like the right kind of audience, good vibes.
Yeah.
So this guy is like, oh, maybe it's a fluke. 2 weeks later, let's do a second one. We do the second one, even Kirubi comes.
For the party.
Rocks up to this bash and he's like, what show are we promoting this thing on? And they're like, nah, this thing wasn't even on radio. How do all these people know? And it's like, we're just building an audience. We're building a community. So now they bring me on. So now I'm the guy in charge of making sure we have a new community coming that's not just the radio audience. And I'm still in uni. So now, like at this bash, the first one that we did, I think my cut from the revenue they made was 10K. I was hype. I was like, my guy, one Kalus weekend.
From a 500 shilling investment.
From just a 500 bob they gave me, the guy sent me 10K. So I'm like, nice. In 2 weeks, I can make another 10K. This is better than the 5K a month I was making 2 years ago, right? So now I'm like, I can make 10K every week if I can convince these guys we have a kabash. Or if they have a thing that they need some help, I'll come. If he could give me 10K once, he can give me 10K again. So I just stay close to these guys. By the time, almost 8 months later, when now I'm going to graduate, I was already at a point where I would make easily 25K every month off of just Code Red from dropping by their Friday party, doing I don't know what, helping this DJ who didn't know how to MC and they need to do a promo for Smirnoff. I'd go there and be like, I'll be the guy on the mic. And from there, so now I finish uni and now I need to get a job, right? So now my mzee is looking at me like, hey, have you started going around with your CV? And I've spoken to Nani and Nani, go meet them. So I go meet them. And I'm offered a job. That's when Chase Bank was starting. And they're like, come, enter here. This will be Nini. Starting salary, 17.5. And because we're a new entity, you have to work Monday to Saturday and sometimes Sunday, depending on the workload. So me, I'm like, guys, 17.5. And then I already make 25 over there. And I only work Friday, Saturday. Now you're telling me 7 days. That math did not make sense to me.
Yeah.
So me, I tell my dad, give me like 6 months. Let me pause on that job. I'll go back. For 17.5, how many guys do they have in the line?
Yeah.
If they need me in 6 months, I'll come back. Let me try and build this thing. My dad's like, you just follow these guys. Them, they have money. Now it starts that story of, you're following some guys who, them, they're sour.
Yeah.
And I'm like, let me follow. So I come and I tell my cousin, I want to manage this thing, right? Now I'm done. I'm available full time. I want to be the brand manager
For Code Red.
Code Red. Like, what does that mean? I'll be the one to make sure the banners are up. When you do a gig, the brand is visible. And then you pay me a retainer every month. Then still the same way I was going for gigs and getting paid, you pay me the same. Guys like, sour, let's start. So I enter. So now it's there. So I'm with all these DJs.
What is the retainer he offered you?
Man, I think it was less than 10K.
It was less than 10K.
It was
Okay.
less
But you're
than
still
10K.
making more money than
But
what
I
you
still
have.
have. So if I take the 10K plus the 25, I'd hit
you're
35,
double
40
what they were giving
every
you at
month.
whatever. Yeah.
So I'm sour and I'm still staying at home. So me, I'm not talking much with my folks. I'm just like, we have a gig, we have Nini.
Yeah.
So someday they see me coming with like a pickup full of equipment. They're like, you guys, what do you do in this? Everything. I have tomorrow morning, I have to be at KCB to set up. So I'd just be on that. And I was literally like creating my own role as we went. I started to get into that. I started to manage the clients. So now it stopped being just come and put the banners. It's so-and-so want to do a gig, go sell to them. So, marketing. Hey, we've been asked to pitch for some jobo, help us do a proposal. So I started doing that. And slowly, I mean, it literally took less than a year. So because they were already hot, there was already work, right? So every week there was someone coming. Demand. You could just be able to book a gig and make your commission. But I was like, man, we get called to all this. Let's say EABL still was the biggest sponsor then. They have a gig, they've hired an agency to do the work. Then us, we're the ones paid to come and entertain, right? But we get up there and we're doing all the work. You can tell they've not done anything here on experience. It's us doing all the work, but we still have to ngangana with the accountant for that agency for 2 months. So I tell these guys, we need to start pitching for these jobos ourselves. They're like, man, the politics. I'm like, let's just go pitch. See, the worst is that we won't get the work. So we go in, we start making proposals. We go in, we start pitching. So we had really good ground. Yeah. We had it on lock. We had schools that used to call us to do their proms. So we had a school network. We had a club network. We had like some rich people who do private parties. So you're already connected to all the right places. It's about now, how do you elevate this into something bigger than like a 50K every gig? So slowly we start going to pitch, and my guy, I don't know how, the gigs start to come. And our pitches were simple. As we do entertainment, me, I'm not going to come and sell you couches, CG deco. You want to sell booze and you need the people to be entertained, this is the formula, this is what we'll call it. And we'd literally take experiences we already had in a club and say, we can do this for you at a larger scale. So we were pitching to essentially scale the little ideas we were already running. Bro, it was like 2 years max. We were now in contract level. So now you're managing, I think one of the first ones we got was Smirnoff. And Smirnoff gave us a contract to do 100 parties across the country. 100 parties? 100 parties. There's 52 weeks a year. So you have two gigs a week. You need to deliver for Smirnoff. You've given a bill. You've been given an LPO. You just go Meru, go Machakos, go all these places and create the same thing that you guys are doing in Westy. Yeah. Take that there. So we do that, becomes hella successful, get that for a second year running, pitch for 2 other brands, get those. And now we start to like stir the pot, right? There are now people inside the machine who are looking and saying, these are not those DJs for last year. We used to pay them 50 a gig. Now they're walking out of here with LPOs of 20-something million per job, right? And there's a point we had 2 or 3 of those. So then it's like, hey, we need to go set up. So to my agency started popping up. Brand managers started leaving EABL to go set up their own thing. Yeah, because they're like, this is where the money is. These kids are just coming and selling air and going and collecting tunes. And we made... How long did it take for the market to catch up? A year, 2? In terms of like... Yeah, because I mean, you had first mover advantage to some extent. How long did you have that for? Man, the thing is, you didn't need it for long. Yeah. If you came from, I make 50 Gs a week. Yeah. to I now have a contract that gives me literally 2 million a month, right? To just, you go do the same thing you've been doing. And so we started to expand our team. We started to this. And so the good thing is we self-disrupted a lot. So we were the guys who said, all the big names that were over here that we built have bounced. Let's make some new names.
Yeah.
Went and pitched again to the client to pay for a thing called Pilsner Mfalme DJ competition. And we went around the country auditioning DJs. This is where DJ Joe Mfalme came from. This is where Catrix came from. This is where Crowbar came from. Literally, we went to the pits of this country and we're like, if you think you can make money out of DJing, you can be the next big DJ. And Pilsner were giving them a truck, a van, a minivan, decks worth, I think, $500,000. So we had a package. And for 2 years, we went out and scouted. Anybody that was hot and didn't make it into the finals,
you kept Adacodred.
Come to our office. I give you a nice contract because me, I have jobos.
Yeah.
I have a bar calling for this. I have who. And so we literally just built even what would be our own disruption.
Yeah.
We brought it into the machine.
Yeah.
So
you guys were making money.
Nicely.
Yeah.
And outside of the LPOs, remember, now once you're doing that, now you look hyper visible.
Yeah.
So everybody's just like, hey, Codred has people to have.
Yeah.
So there's a time we had, literally, we'd start on Tuesday. The only day we didn't have a gig was Monday. Tuesday, we're on Langata Road. Wednesday, we were over here. Thursday, Electric Avenue. Friday, Saturday, you're around the country. Sunday, you're doing something.
Yeah.
6 days a week, even just say 50K per gig.
Yeah.
And it comes, these two small ones, cash. Right? There was no, I'll come for my check at the end. DJs don't operate like that. I finish the night at 4 a.m.
Give me my money,
We go to the back of the office, you give me my money. So me as the brand manager, I'd be at all these gigs. Because at 4 a.m. I collect the tunes. I go. Tomorrow morning I am at the bank, put this money in the bank and go.
Yeah.
And so we were making money.
Is this the period where you make that 2 million shillings?
Into my account?
Yes.
No. So in this period, we make way more than that.
Yeah.
But I don't own this company, right? So my retainer and my commission per gig remains the income. So it doesn't matter whether we signed a 24 million gig, my contract, which I really didn't have as mini contract, doesn't include me getting a share of profit.
Right.
So money is entering, but it's not coming to my pocket.
Right.
And so around here, I'm like, I'm going to keep doing this, but I'm going to open another company where I'm the owner. Because now I have an owner mindset.
Yes.
I'm like, these owners are the guys who
make the real money.
They make the real money. They make the decisions on also how the real money is spent. So I partner with two other people. One person is a creative, one is a money person. Now, the thing I'd learned from that introduction of my mom's, these money people are important. Always have that rich person, the richer person than you on the table. If you're the richest person on the table, this is not a good business idea because you're the one funding it, right? So I had another creative and a rich person.
Yeah.
And a rich person with networks of other rich people. So we set up an experiential agency because then I was like, that's where the thing is. And outside of just the entertainment, I already know how to do the proposals and what they need. We can pitch for other types of work, banks, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So we set up this company. My guy, it was the same year of setup. Again, the rich person.
Yeah.
We had a contract with KCB. We had a contract with Standard Chartered. And we got the deal to do the launch of Orange in Kenya. So Telcom.
To do the launch.
So
within
Telcom,
year one.
This is 6 months of operation. I'll tell you, have a rich friend. We got this, someone else got the job. They didn't have the capacity. So they took the job and just subcontracted to us. So within the first 6 months, we have a job. The contract amount is 46 million shillings. Right, to do one gig. It's 1 week of gigs.
Yeah.
So on Thursday, you'll have the president come to KICC, cut a ribbon, fireworks. Then on Friday, you go to Uhuru Gardens, do a gig from Wananchi, then go to the national park and do something that feels like, the French are in Africa.
Right.
My guy, 40-something million. who is the person in charge of operations and how the budget is used?
It's you.
So me, I do all these things, nini. We spend a decent amount of it, and we are left with something like maybe 10 or 12 in the account after.
Yeah.
So we were 3 directors in the business. We say kila mtu
Two.
two. Ingine ikae kwa account.
Yeah.
And so
that's where that came from.
My business partner at that time came to my crib with a envelope, and he had removed it in cash. He was like and he had removed the 2M and he brought it in an envelope to my house in cash.
And he said,
bro, man, I'm happy to be the guy who's shown you your fasting. And he gave me these chums. And I was just like, this is mad. Because now I don't have to take it to the company account.
Right.
I mean, this is
your money.
This is my chums.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I was like, okay, this is wild. Right?
I have 2 questions. One, I want to take you back to coded parties. Then I want to ask you a question on this for this money you made. The coded parties, I'm very introverted. I'm an extreme introvert. I chill in the house. I play Xbox. That's what I like to do. And I remember when I watched Project X. I've always been like, I would have loved to be at a Project X like party. I never have been, but I just think that experience must be so insane for those 7 sort of 8 hours or whatever period it is, where you're completely immersed in just utter fun and loud music and just all these things happening. Why your parties like that? I guess the other parties that you guys would be hosting.
Yes. So,
yeah,
when you understand the power of entertainment, you can be able to do magic. We pioneered, I'll just give you a good example. The closest thing I can put to like a Project X is a night we used to do here in Westlands called Bend Over Thursday.
I remember that. I remember the name Bend Over Thursday.
We literally would walk into Coca-Cola East Africa in a boardroom, and the manager there would tell us, can you guys do that Bend Over Thursday effect for this campaign that we're trying? Because we had created, Bend Over was just a song.
Yes, I've forgotten who the whatever was, but Bend Over, yeah.
My guy.
Yeah.
We turned this thing into such a spectacle. There would be people on tape. This is a Thursday night, a normal not a public holiday, and it became every Thursday night for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
People would come out to Westlands in droves until almost 6 in the morning to experience
this Bend Over
like a
Thursday.
rave.
Yeah.
The things you see in Jamaica, pasa.
Yeah.
We used to have Jamaican artists come into the country to perform like a weekend show, and they'll spend the entire Thursday night sitting on the balcony of Bend Over Thursday, just like being like, what the guan is.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Nairobi has been wild for a long time, and people here really like to party. You throw in the right amount of alcohol. We invented some guys called party starters. So we used to roll with like a bunch of baddies. They call them baddies
These
now.
days.
We used to roll with the baddies who
you'd
come into the party at 10:30 and you'd be like, why are these bad girls so hype? Why are they dancing to every song? They're part of the entourage.
Yeah.
They're part of
the
machine.
code red experience.
They're part of the experience.
Right.
And so the parties would kick off early. And it didn't matter where we're going. We'd have these people, we'd move them. This was the community we built from.
Yeah.
So they always knew. These babes knew. Anytime you see Code Red at any place, we're supposed to rock up and we need to have
Were they
a good
paid?
Time. They'd drink off
Oh,
our
it's just
table.
right.
Them what they got was a good time.
Right.
And they valued the good time more than anything. So if it was a paid gig, they didn't need to pay the entrance.
Right.
Things like those.
Right.
But we literally brought experiences to. So now imagine taking that. Then now we're in Kisumu, somewhere in a corner.
Yeah.
And we've been told, come and bring a bash. And we're choreographed. This thing was so tight when Jay-Z came to Tanzania, they called us to come and be the act that plays before Jay-Z. You know that there's like a local African who performs. Yeah, they brought down Code Red from Kenya to do that.
So if you were to map out for me what the Code Red, the blueprint of what a Code Red experience was, what would you say it was? Like if you were to map it out and say, so this is the baddies would be on at this time, or this is what it would take. Yeah.
One, there was like people already came with an anticipation. So before you came to a code red party, you already knew, I need to dress a certain way.
Right.
We pioneered this thing where we all wore literal red, right? So there'd be an army of people in red. You'd see people rocking up and they've made a t-shirt like ours, or they have an old t-shirt that they got from someone. There was always babes. So the babes was the leading factor. You came to a code red party because you knew
they were going to be
nice babes everywhere. So you came for that. Then the energy was high, and it was always a performance. There are times you go now to a club or whatever, and the DJ is playing, and you're like, oh, this sounds like the set I had at place X or at place Y. This one was, think of it as like an artist performance. There was always a performance. We did choreographed dances. We had, like there were routines. There was a hype man. So we pioneered the high energy style of DJing. We also collaborated a lot. So you could come to this thing, artists would be rocking up to this place. So at a Code Red party, you'll find Prezo, you'll find Waire, it was where you knew the artists even come out for
the Code Red experience. Right.
So there was that. You discovered music, which was another thing that doesn't happen anymore.
As much right now,
So that time we were the guys who put you onto songs. There used to be a thing that came out every week globally called Radio Express that had like the top 15 songs globally. And we would sift through that and be like, these are the 2 songs we are pushing. And literally in 3 weeks, you'd start to hear other clubs and radios playing this song because us guys started it in a club, and now people are looking for this. So it was a place of discovery, and you felt as though you were in, the dance hall was dance hall. The Kenyan was like Kenyan proper. And we really understood the consumer, so we made sure from when you came to when you left, you were in a high energy experience. Yeah.
Interesting. I think, many people don't, appreciate the level of detail and the level of effort it takes to pull off something of that nature, right?
Correct.
The second question I had was now around the being able to book that gig that gave you 2 million shillings. What, because there's the phrase around working hard and having a rich parent, and which one would you take? And I think there was just that was done that essentially states that it doesn't matter how hard you work, the biggest leg up you can get is coming from a rich family. What do you think that sort of experience taught you around wealth and wealthy networks?
Man, money goes to where money is.
Yeah.
Okay. I appreciate everybody who has hustled from the ground up and has been able to build their own wealth. But let me tell you, the person who already has money picks up the phone to another person with money. The money provides trust, provides reassurance. There are so many things that the rich guy, whether it's you or somebody you have, but money really attracts money. And I've learned that. So in all the places I have worked, I've been privileged to have direct access to the owners of the business. So the person I report to that I work with owns the machine.
Great.
And they are not owners of, like us, for bootstrapping, Natafuta. It's owners for, I thought this was a good idea, I've put money in it. So if I need to add more money tomorrow to keep the thing moving, which is what any business needs, they have that. But without having those rich people on the table, there's no way we would have gotten
the gigs that you got
of those gigs.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, Ati, those people saw us and said,
talent.
This is the best, most experienced. No.
Yeah.
They gave their fellow rich person the gig, and my work was to deliver to the experience that this person has been trusted with. So when Standard Chartered says, I want to do something for the ladies, and I want it to be our premium customers, they want you to understand what premium is. And when you're talking premium with rich people, it's different from what premium is. VSOP is what we call premium. But when you're talking, they want to see quality. They want things set up nice. So that was my work, to translate what you've gone and talked in the boardroom, and you've told this rich lady, she understands. Now, George, go and turn that into an experience.
Okay.
And that I knew how to do. So then we were winning. So the first thing is to have the person who can bring it, but
and
also
be
you
able
need
to
to be able
execute.
to deliver to the level and past what they expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you do with the 2 million shillings? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Bro, I bought a car. Okay. I found like a pilot who had a Subaru. And mpaka those nose.
Yes.
I told the guy, how much? Come to the office. Come to the office. Then we passed by Yaya Center. I moved for you some money.
Yeah.
So like 750 disappeared. Like that. I was like, now I can move out of my phone. At this point, I'm still staying at my mom's house. So now I'm like...
Did your folks know that you had made that money?
You can't tell them, okay? Kenyan household, you don't come say, Mom, this is up for bedroom. I have 2 M. She'll think I've become a drug dealer. So I say, Biashara is working.
Yeah.
I found like a spot I want to move. So I get like a cabin, a log cabin in Kilimani. I tell the landlord, Namwindi, I'll pay you quarterly. Cut him a check for 3 months of rent. I already almost 9 sockets down.
Right.
The house needs to be furnished. I have nothing, right? And I don't want to take things from my mom's house. So go get stuff. And again, remember, I'm from an experience where I know more money will come.
Yes.
So I'm not thinking, use half, save half. Right. I'm thinking, get those 2 more things that. So I go buy some nice furniture. I actually still have that furniture in my house until today. And it still looks very nice.
Yeah.
Went and got furniture. So basically what I'm saying is like 6 months after that, there was no trace of that to me except a loud exhaust in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And now there was more cash coming in to continue to fuel the thing.
Yeah. So at this time, you're running the agency and you're managing Code Red.
Yes.
Okay. But Code Red, you're taking your peanuts. The agency, you're taking real money.
Eating profits.
Right. Okay.
And it also allowed my relationship with Code Red to like continue without too much
because now you
drama. Because now I'm like, I'm not going to keep fighting you for ownership, which was the thing I now started to insist on. If I'm going to continue to do this and get more jobos, I want to be able to eat like an owner. If I can't do that, then we need to rethink the thing. But this owning my own thing now gave me a little bit of financial reassurance on how I can do things. The sad part is that, in this partnership of the agency, we also ended up kosanaing, just because, the rich person wants to do things the way the rich person wants. So remember, we still have like a 6 or something left in the account. Now, how to use that to make sure we can continue doing more?
Yeah.
Everyone has a different opinion. Some want us to be going every week for a lunch at Mediterrano, and me, I'm just like, guys, we need to find a way to make this 100 now. And we didn't agree, so I chomoed myself from the thing. And I was like, I don't mind walking away from this thing and letting you guys continue. So let me go and renegotiate my deal with Code Red and see how to make it.
Because they were still making money.
They were still making money. Code Red is
at the height of Code Red, how much do you think would you estimate ballpark they would make in a year?
By this time, Code Red has the DJs. Code Red has opened a music studio. So we now have artists. We're managing mad tracks. We're doing what? We're getting contracts to do jingles for the World Cup. What?
Like as a business, it's doing
as a business
revenues.
Revenues, like maybe call it like 40 M maybe a year.
Yeah,
easily.
It's a legit business. This is
pre-2012.
Right.
So 2010 to 2009.
Right.
Talking about a business that's making double-digit millions every month, and 60% of it is cash revenue coming into the business. So it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I come back in, and at this point now I'm just thinking, expand the territory. So we start to pitch to now get into Tanzania. And I'm like, let's take this thing to TZ. We'd just been called to go open for Jay-Z. I'm like, this means there's a gap. So we go back and we say, guys, we want to start doing a monthly in TZ. This Italian guy has a club, premium VIP club. We're like, we'll take Thursdays. Nobody does Thursdays. They're like, what do you mean Thursday? I'm like, give us Thursday. That's our day. That's the day us we own. We know Thursday.
Yeah.
And so we take a Thursday in TZ and
Explodes.
blows up. So now we are doing Thursday in TZ. There was a time it was ridiculous. I remember a time we had the Wednesday party. You finish in the morning, go straight to the airport, fly to Tanzania, sleep when you're in Tanzania in the afternoon, go do radio, go to do the gig, come back Friday morning, because Friday night you have a gig in Nakuru, right? So drive to Nakuru, come back. Saturday morning we had a live show on KTN. So drive back to wherever we are recording this show. So this was like a typical week for almost a year now. And we're now burning out, right? Now you don't have enough talent. The ego thing is starting to happen. So the DJs you took as young boys 3 years ago now are just like, even me, I want the big gig. And so did that for a bit, and entering TZ was also good for me because it then showed me something different. It was like the thing we're doing works, but how can we start to like try out new spaces that are a bit challenging? So we come back, we have this ownership conversation again. The ownership conversation doesn't go the way I want. And so I'm an emotional guy. At that point, I hadn't reached emotional stability. I'm an emotional guy, so I throw my hands in the air and I'm like, guys. Achana with this thing.
Right.
But I've spent the last 6 years as Code Red Porgie, right? I've built my entire circle around this. My Facebook name is related to the business. Like everything about me, I had made myself this business.
Right.
People saw me and saw Code Red. You didn't see anything else.
Right.
So then I was like, now in a city like this, how do you rebuild? Because tomorrow my phone is going to ring and the thing they're going to want is Code Red. So I've walked away. Now am I going to be saying, no, call so-and-so? Or will I be saying, just give me the business I give? I was just torn in like what to do. And so I called the guys in TZ, one of the guys we had met while we were there. And I was like, what are you guys up to? What are you guys scheming? I'm looking to come out there for a bit and just see stuff. And the guy was like, yo, we're actually trying to set up a new brand. If you're down, come for like 2 weeks. I'll sort out your flight and your accommodation and we run. Bro, 3 years.
You end up 3 years later.
Dar es Salaam. We built a party brand. We ended up running a club. We got into brand management for some of the biggest alcohol brands. And that now moved me into something I was doing initially here, but now I was able to help set it up afresh with a new audience, set my own terms. And that was mad. So it was like going back in time, you know. You go to
and
now,
like, and you start again,
and
with,
you start
with better
again,
knowledge.
but now with better knowledge. And so I literally repeated what we had been doing here with Code Red as a new brand out there, and it became super successful. So spent a good 3-year run out there, and I'd come in and out of Nairobi every so often. We're still doing a bit of concept development and stuff like that in Nairobi for some brands. And somewhere along that journey, the other thing about going away from home, I have a lot of respect for people who just wake up and relocate.
Right.
Because me, after 3 years,
You
I was
are
like, hey, my guy, I miss home, man. I want to be in Nai where I know how things work. I have my own space. I started now to feel, you know, I'm in like an apartment, but I'm not doing anything to make it.
Because it's not
my spot.
Yeah.
And so I also made the difficult decision one day in 2015 to just be like, I think I should move back to Nai. I had no plan. I had no ati, let me go do X. And it didn't take even a month after that before we launched Mookh.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. During this period when you've left the agency and your Code Red and before you go to Tanzania, you're still surviving on the same payment terms for Code Red, or had those improved a little?
They improved slightly.
Yeah.
And again, because the business was still equally busy.
Right.
The thing that a business like, you know, DJing or entertainment gets you at is you might not have a nice contractual amount on your check at the end of the day, but the fact that you can touch money almost every day of the week confuses you. Remember, I'm 22, 23 at this point.
Yeah.
That you can just be touching every week. If I needed 10K.
So you feel like you
I
have
feel
money.
like I have money.
Yeah, even though you
because
don't, but you feel
I
like
don't have money, but
Yeah.
every week I've touched 100, 200, I've had a kanini, my moti has an issue and blah, blah, blah. The mech can be fixing it. Tomorrow as we get the thingy, I'll be able to have some 20 to sort. So let me tell you the funniest story. During Code Red time, I was able to travel literally the world, right, with these DJs. That life is nice. No cost, bro. I don't even know what it takes to go apply for a visa because we used to send our passports through the radio station. Then you're called to come and do fingerprints and you collect your visa and you go to America. There at America, they come with, these Kenyans in the year, they come with like 4 GMCs. They pick you up, they put you in a hotel. So everything is catered for.
Yeah.
In 2018, 2018 is just
The other day.
2018 is the first time I woke up and said, I want to go on a trip. Those things are expensive, my friend. I was like, this is how guys have been. When you see guys here traveling, this is what it costs. You have $1 million and you just watch it disappearing.
Complete.
Until it finishes. So I had enjoyed almost 8 years of like the softest life, access to some of the craziest things, and I didn't have to pay for them. So even how I treated or valued money was different because I don't need money to go to America. I went to Switzerland once for 3 weeks and I had 30K Kenya shillings in my card. The card had 30,000 Kenya shillings. I was in Switzerland for 3 weeks, bro. I came back with chocolates. We traveled in Switzerland. I went to places and I even got paid while we were there and came back. So there were things that I had gotten to experience that really
purely
cost
of the
a lot
benefit of
the
being
benefits of the
right.
industry I was in.
Okay.
And so that was like one of the wildest benefits of that time. It was that I was able to live some very extravagant life without actually having to pay for it.
What happened to Code Red? I mean, in your estimation, what happened? Because I feel like, during COVID and post-COVID, with the rise of DJing and virtual DJing and what Grouchy's done and what MC Gogo is doing and CNG and the Dream and Mr. C was here the other day as well and we talked to him. It seems like the business model would still be working now and working really, really well.
Two things happen. One, talent will always be talent, right? And so one thing I learned from being in Code Red and then being out of Code Red is that if you remove the business thinking from the talent on itself, we can only go so far.
Yes.
Because the talent starts to convince itself, I don't need to do X work, I don't need to go pitch, I don't have to go negotiate my value, So there's a business side that affects how talent grows.
Right.
And so what happened to Code, without blowing any horns, but I think removing the business thinking and leaving it to purely talent to manage themselves was a downfall for Code Red. Number two is, it would probably still be viable, yes, but what we created then was the blueprint that allows the guys you've just mentioned to be able to operate in the way they operate.
Now,
when I got into the business, DJs used to go to clubs to negotiate 3K, 5K a night. I'll come DJ at your bar in Tao, you pay me 5K and maybe give me 2 beers. Now, the DJ comes here kwanza with a kanaka beamer. You're like, hey, who's going to pay this guy?
Yeah.
And this bill is going to be 100,000, and he's already invested in the equipment. He's not worried about what decks you have.
Yeah.
So there's a blueprint that we were able to create that has created now even greater assets on the talent side. And so what happens is now you have a 20, 30-year-old brand trying to compete with a 19-year-old DJ who is bad and who has spent all of his teenage life watching you and practicing and doing that. So the competition also happened. And so the owners have gone into other businesses, still in entertainment, but not then focusing on building this brand or maintaining the brand that was Code Red. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I didn't know all those details, and I think it's just interesting to hear the business case of it, and just to hear also about the impact it had on the DJing space. Because they're making. They're making a lot of money now.
Now if
they're making
if
a
you
lot
go
of
home
money.
and you tell your parents you want to be a DJ, they're like,
it's
I've
possible.
Seen, I've seen some success stories to look at before they didn't have too many.
So let's get into Mookh. So when you're coming back from Tanzania, again, are you coming back with any money? Are you coming back with? I know previously we started the podcast talked about emergency fund, so I'm assuming this was even pre that.
Pre.
So when you're coming, you're just coming.
I'm just coming. I have a bit of money. Not too much. The good thing about Tanzania is at that point they had dollars flowing left, right, and center. So you could make some money. So I have some money. I come back, but we're also in this business. So at this point, me and my current business partner, his name is Eric Timber, we'd set up a thing called the Ideas Company. And what we used to do is basically just ideate on things we could sell to agencies, experiences we could build for brands and things like those. And so as we were crafting that, we really wanted, so when you're always in this strategy kind of work and thing, it's very seasonal. So in the beginning of the year, we'll have 3 jobs, they'll pay us good money, but in July, nobody's doing strategy. So now you're left there trying to figure out what it was. So we were sitting being like, we need a cash business. You know that kiosk where there's like 1,000 entering every day? We need one of those. And so Timber had gotten into a distribution business to sell a product. And what we were trying to crack, or what I was trying to help him with, is how to market it online. So from USIU days to this building communities, I understood how to rally people behind something. So he had come to me to be like, how can we market this thing on like Facebook and drive more sales? And I was like, it's good there, but then now we are sending these people after we market to the supermarket, to the chemist. Now you don't know if they reached, didn't reach, if they got it. So we started trying to think, how can we sell this product on Facebook? We need to sell this thing on Facebook. So we started going around Google. How do you set up a Facebook shop, Shopify? The thing is like, put your US account number. We don't have. Oh, if I want to collect M-Pesa, those were the days for 0733, send the money here, then in my DM, send the confirmation.
Your number, right.
Like, that's not a way that we can scale this business. So we started trying to think about how to collect the money online. That was the thing that we were struggling with. We had built a shop. We now had like a Facebook shop, but we had no way to collect the money, the mukwanja. So at that point, we used to call money mukwanja, right? So we're like, bro, have you figured out how we'll collect that mukwanja? And he's like, no. So we'd sit every day just trying to be like, what's the way to get the Mookh? And as we were trying to think about that, we were like, oh, Mookh is a nice name. So we started, us guys are marketers. So we started playing with a logo. Hey, what would this thing be? How would we spell it? Does the domain exist? That's a fun name. What does it mean? And it took us maybe a year. So these are thoughts we'd been having when I was in and out from like 2013. We'd been having this, and it took us maybe a year before we were able to crack how to actually drive payments into this Facebook thing. And by the time we did it, the product we were trying to sell was now out of the picture, right? It had taken so long that we didn't anymore need to sell these. But in looking online and in trying to see who else on Facebook has an audience they're trying to monetize, that we can tap into and offer this same end-to-end solution. And again, I was from the event world, so I was like, all these guys doing gigs are pushing on Facebook. They have an event page on Facebook. Then people come to buy tickets at the door. So why don't we figure out how to sell tickets to these things on Facebook? And that's how we started. When Mudhoni was here, she told you guys about Africa Nouveau.
Yes.
The gig that almost killed her.
Yes.
That's also the gig that gave birth to Mookh.
Really?
That was Mookh's
first
event. She knows, and that's why Mudhoni is a little prophetess. She does the work of God without even knowing it. So in trying to do this brand new gig, we were able to be like, why not try a brand new format? Now, I don't know if that's the reason Mudhoni people didn't come to the gig or not. God is still working with us. But
Yeah.
we decided to try a new format where then the tickets would be sold off of the event page
Right.
on Facebook, as opposed to going out to a ticketing platform who held the data that she needed. So we're like, we'll give you a data handshake, we'll give you access to all the data for your gig. She was like, let's do it. You guys are my homies, let's try it. Very unsuccessful.
On her part.
No, on both of our even
Okay.
first was the first time we're using this system ever. So
Right.
maybe out of 3,000 people who tried to buy tickets, only about 700 were
Oh,
successful.
even right.
So even the process, the thing, it was like, what is this? 2 days before the gig, we're like, sir, we've sent guys QR codes. How will we scan them at the door? We call like a guy, bro, do you know someone who can build us like an app to scan QR codes? A kid.
You
walks
hadn't
up.
done that beforehand.
Who would have told us to do that?
Yeah.
Nobody knew. No one had thought about the cycle that
Yeah.
far. The previous ticketing company that existed came with their laptop
Yeah.
to the event and checked your name on a PDF,
Yeah, and give
right?
you
and then gave you a
hand thing.
So then I'm like, okay, let's make an app. So this kid makes us an app, sends it to Timba and me. Me and Timba put it on our phones, and we rock up at Ngong Race Course to now scan. So people are coming. Now, the guys who bought, these few who are successful, they would come. Now, they're used to, I print my ticket, I come show you. These guys would come, they show us on their phone, we scan, boom. Then we're like, it's good. And they're like, what is this thing? This is so dope. So now people start like encouraging us. And immediately that gig ended. Someone called and said, hey, I was at Africa Nouveau. I have a gig coming. Can I use your system? Whatever this thing is, how much do you charge? We're like, 8%. First client. Then we sat with Modoni and her team. Guys, hey, sorry, Bane, what's the way to improve so that Nini, did you like, hey, we like that we got data, Nini. I wish I could do X, Y, Z. We said, Sawa. We had like a guy who used to be our developer. We're like, make for them a way to do
X, and X.
He adds that as a feature, And literally it was like that. Week on week, we'd have a new person come, sign up, say, hey, I'm trying to sell something online. I've seen you guys have a solution. And we literally went from, in 2015, Africa Nouveau as the only gig, to 2019, ticketing 450 gigs throughout the year in three markets, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda. Yeah.
That's incredible. And you're saying throughout this journey, it was bootstrapping. It was the revenue of the business that kept growing the business. You didn't outsource any funds. You didn't get any investment. Nothing.
We didn't even know that that's how people start businesses, right? Remember me, I'm used to businesses where there's like a rich person who, the day we're given the job, if we need a million to do it, someone will provide. We weren't thinking like that. As we were building like a thing for Facebook, then now it had some customers. We're just two guys with a vision and nothing. In hindsight, what I would tell anyone, go with that vision, pitch it to somebody with money, see how you can get some kind of runway, even if it's not an initial investment. See if these people understand it. They would drive you to think about revenue. Us guys were literally taking our own money, paying the developer to do things, paying the guy for the app, paying thingy. So any money we were making from whatever we were doing
this.
we were putting
So
into
how
this
were you surviving? When you got back to Nairobi, how are you surviving at that time? How are you making money? How are you paying the bills?
So after about 3 months of this, we sit down with Thimba and we're like, are we going to do this? Yes, we're going to do this. What do we need? So we make the decision to find a house we can live in together so that the work of this company, at the worst, is to pay the rent for that house. Thimba was like, I have a fridge.
Right.
Me, I was like, I have furniture. Remember, I had spent
The
my
furniture,
tubes on furniture. I have furniture I'll come with. He had a fridge and his bed and Nini, and we got an apartment and we started sharing. And I think for the next 3 years or so, we lived together.
Yeah.
And everything our business made, the only expense, we never took a salary. The only expense we took was rent to pay this thing. And then God fed us on manna and other delicious things.
For 3 years.
For 3 years. All right. So 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, like that. Just gigs are coming. We're accepting them from this. And gigs in 2018, 2017,
But at this
we're not making money.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're not making money. Even as we're getting 400 gigs,
Yeah.
they're not transacting at 100 million. So I'm not making 8 million a year or anything.
Right,
like that.
right.
We're literally like shoelace tight, right?
So what was the vision? And I'm also asking because if I remember correctly, you got an award in 2018, right? And I'm also asking because it's funny you talked about Modoni because I'm remembering her story and her saying at some point, I don't remember what year she said, Blanket seemed so successful and everyone was saying that she must be a billionaire, but she was living in her friend's house, they were co-sharing, and she said she was depressed, and she's reading this article about how she's making so much money. She's like, no, I'm not.
Gigs were not making
Yeah.
money. And so because our business model was a commission of revenue, we only made a commission of what they were able to collect. They were not collecting a lot. I can tell you now. There was no money in these gigs. They were struggling. If we saw a gig collect like 3 million, one gig,
3 million gross.
Like they've sold 3 million worth of tickets. We were like, and they're using 97% of this on expense, right? So gigs were expensive and they weren't making revenue. So you relied on sponsorship, which was getting lower and lower and lower by the year. It was horrible. All that we did was so remember from the back, we're not motivated by money. We're not coming into this like, man, this is going to be the thing that makes us rich. We've stumbled on a thing. It's working. And it's being used. So, and because us, we are semi-perfectionists, we're guys for make sure it's the best product. So we're just pumping improvements into this thing. And we're fixing for ourselves. There was no payment gateway that worked the way we wanted.
Yes.
So we literally built how we want our payments to work from scratch. We'd sit with Safaricom and give them pressure. We'd sit with the banks and give them pressure till they introduced us to Visa directly. You call the bank so much, the tech guy is just like, let me connect you to the provider. Then you deal with the provider directly because the things you want, nobody has ever asked us to do. And so we end up building our own card system, our own payment system in 3 markets. Until today, there's still no one provider you can go to that can say, I have the direct rails for my own business in these countries. So we build that, and we spend a lot of time building that. Again, just with the little money we have. Lean team, 1, 2 developers. What happens around that 2018 is we're now starting to be seen a lot. People are now seeing us in a lot of gigs. We've now been told about these things where you go pitch for funding. So now me and Timba are wearing suits and going to all these pitch things. And they're asking us tough questions, Bana. What happens when Facebook shuts you down? You guys are just hacking into their system to sell tickets. And I'm like, hacking? What are you guys thinking? Like, what kind of people are you?
Yeah.
We're just doing honest business. Okay, well, which uni did you go to? Are you backed by, who in your team is from Stanford? Nobody. Me, I'm from here. Thika Road is where I studied, right? And so there was such distrust from the investor community when we first went that we were like,
this is not our place.
This is not the place for us. So then we're like, maybe let's talk to the machines, the other tech people. They might speak our language. So we just started walking in. Hey, Microsoft, who works at Microsoft, can we figure out how to do a thing? They're like, hey, we actually have a program for startups. We can put you on. They had such an amazing program. They had like a exchange program for their staff. So a developer in California who works at Microsoft could take 2 weeks paid off and come work with a startup in Kenya. So we had a lady come do UX UI with our UX UI guy who was just a young guy. We had someone who did back end come and do. So we started to get technical support at professional level that we couldn't afford. We started to pitch to guys like Visa. Visa like, oh, you guys have done what? Come into this accelerator program, you could win X amount. So we started getting into these circles. And the noise was nice, right? So in 2018, we have all these interesting tech partners. We get into this Visa challenge, they were calling it. And ideally, it's to see how different companies across Africa are using payments or innovating around payments. The thing we were solving that was different from any payment company that existed was how quickly you could get your money, right? many payment gateways exist, right? But they're made to serve your traditional business, an airline, a hotel, who if you tell them every 14 days, I'll settle the money that's in your account, they're okay. For Modoni, she can't wait 14 days after the suppliers are there. If they've bought a ticket today, I'd really like to access that money today. The only way to make that possible is to actually have control of that channel of the money. So we built a system that literally makes money feel real time. It's digital money, but if you need it tomorrow, I will have it available for you tomorrow. And so that's the thing we went and presented at Visa, ended up winning. So in like a 4-month, man, we had one of the craziest. And we were in the same boat that you were just mentioning. We're not making chums. But the places that we're in. So Timba ends up in South Africa at the final of this thing. He comes back, he has a $50,000 check on him. We'd started talking to Facebook. So when all these investors told us, Facebook will shut you down, Facebook will shut you down, we started looking for Facebook. We're like, let's talk to them and see how we can work together. They had a guy in SA called Proud, who was like their local Africa manager. Started talking to him. This guy was hype that there was actually companies in East Africa that were thinking in the way we were thinking. He's like, we're testing this thing in the US with which ticketing company? Can we white label you guys for it? We're like, yeah, white label Mookh. Mookh now is testing what? Next meeting we're having, you should meet the head of partnerships because there's some things we're doing with the developer community. Your developers can get involved. We have one guy. We're like, sour. In this same window, we get an email one day. Hey, we have a delegation coming to Nairobi. Would you guys be available to meet them to just discuss what you guys are doing in the event space on Facebook? And you can bring one of your other clients who's big on Facebook so we can have the convo. So we're like, cool, where's the meeting? It's at iHub. Come through. Thingy. So the next morning, 10 o'clock, we rock up. The watches at iHub are like, the venue is closed. Are you on the list? We're like, yeah, I'm from Mookh. Okay, enter. We're taking the 5th floor. So business is not operating here today. I'm like, cool. So we sit in a room. We've invited the team from Vivo. Vivo that time was starting. Vivo had no factory, had nothing. But they had understood that Facebook and online was going to be an interesting place for them. So we're with Wandia and McKenna. We're sitting on a table. Bro, as we're sitting there, tell me how Mark Zuckerberg doesn't walk into the room and come and sit over there with his head of partnerships and his PA. And he's been given some dockets on us, so he's calling you by name. Yo, Barack, man, the thing you guys are doing is interesting, eh? So we sit for 40 minutes with Mark in a room, talking about Kenya and the payment system and online and what this means for audiences. We tell him, my guy, everyone thinks you're going to shut us down because you're here to do a partnership with M-Pesa. Him is like, I have 2 billion users. And he's like a geeky guy. Yeah. It's like, I have 2 billion users around the world. It's difficult for us to think about services for 40 million only out of the 2 million. So we don't micro build. That's why we have people like you. So us guys live there. First day like a trance for like a day. You're just like, guys, I know some rich people, but that was like the guy has CIA as his security. Like the guys who are coming in to check the room. This is proper. Like, so we left then. 1, there was validation, but 2, he also opened up our eyes into like when you're build like you will one day reach 2 billion users. Don't just be thinking about the guy you have now. And that's the day we went and said, we need to rebuild our entire Mookh system. We need to figure out how to take these guys that we have and all these partnerships and build a standalone. So we didn't have our own website. And everything worked as a plugin. And that's the year we decided to relaunch Mookh.com and managed to pitch to get some angel investors on board and moved into the version that we currently have today.
Interesting. Yeah, that's quite that's quite a journey. And I guess the experience of validation, and I think also a lot of persevering through the vision, I guess, in the process. I'm sure it must have been great to have the validation. I guess, sort of, as we're winding up, my last questions are around this entertainment economy and the way people make money in the especially partners like you who make money in the entertainment space. Because I mean, I've heard you talk about an 8%, but now I hear there's certain partners that take as little as 3%, 2%. from whatever commissions they're making from people who are using their platforms. What's the business model for success? For a service like yours, and of course as well, I think the space itself has been completely disrupted, where you guys were building a lot of this technology and had to really work hard to get it done. Now I think it's a lot easier for people to be able to get the technology that you guys worked so hard to build in some ways. So I guess my question is around your ecosystem as a whole, and all of these partners who seem to keep popping up. I mean, one day it was M-Tickets, now there's Mad Fun, and then when there's so many more that are coming on board. What does that ecosystem look like?
Let me say this: a lot of people who start businesses in our country don't start because they understand the ecosystem or the market potential. They start because they see Barack doing it and it looks like it works. So maybe I should also start a podcast. And see, we just need to buy 2 of these mics, and then we make a sign and we're going.
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing a lot of in the game. It's very easy to buy the 2 mics, right? But there's a lot more that's happening to be able to deliver the quality of what you're producing that the guy starting tomorrow doesn't know yet until they experience it. So we do have a lot of players. Some of them charge very little because they don't understand the economics. So they think, if I just charge less than Mookh, then I'll get Mookh's business, and Mookh's business must be a lot, right? Falsehoods, all right? One, we are in an economy now that is, for the first time in the 10 years that we've been in business, that actually works for the creator. We're now at a place where we do have more young people who are able to consume and who are hungry to consume the things we're creating. You're seeing the level of peer support that the young creatives have, that a Charisma or a Watenda Willy or a who are not 10 years in the game can have bigger audiences than a 10-year in the game player. So the market right now is at a place where we can make a lot of money. Now, the problem for people like us is that for me to make money, the actual event
Has
needs
to work.
be able to work and to grow and to make money, then my volume can increase. And currently the biggest gap, and which is the space that we're looking to fill now in our 10-year milestone, is how do events grow, right? Because even somebody like Modoni with almost 20 years of experience can't walk into your traditional financier today and say, look at the audience I have, look at the kind of spending power they have, so give me access to the same thing that whoever builds all these malls and petrol stations, wherever they go get their money, I know they're not pulling that cash out of their pocket.
Yeah.
For the entertainment industry, the creators are having to pull money out of their pocket constantly, even to grow. So we keep hitting a ceiling, right? I've done. Now I've reached the place I need to invest 5 million for this thing to now skyrocket.
Yeah.
I don't have access to it. And that's a thing we're looking to make easier, because that's where we have a problem. That it's not, we don't have a shortage of ticketing platforms to service the industry. We don't have a shortage of audience. The place where we're struggling is that this creator pool here is not able to access any business needs funding to grow. And currently the entertainment industry doesn't have that. So if we were in Uganda, it wouldn't be a big problem, because in Uganda, the sponsors are lining up like this with millions of shillings to put behind entertainment because they understand what that does. In Kenya, the sponsor wants to become a creator, right? So now you're there fighting, right, on a weekend to fight the biggest sponsor who's trying to do their own thing and failing.
Yeah.
Stop it, okay? Just let us do
That's a direct message.
Let us do what we do, and you do what you do, which is to sponsor or to invest, right? So what we do need now for the game to grow is more people investing, not in the platforms or in the thing. You've seen talks in the game. We need venues, right? So instead of another strip mall, can someone build us a nice venue? And we unfortunately can't rely on the government of the day to build us anything. So somebody needs to build a venue, and the market will be able to support. Somebody needs to be able to take 5 or 6 of the events we have. When you see the Afro, whatever's, all these things that are happening, there's money being put behind it. And it's not Shylocky. It's not that I'll give you 5 million and I want it next month.
Yeah.
It's an investment for the growth of the industry. That's the biggest gap. And that's the thing that we want to fill now to see how we can accelerate the growth for all the players.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're diversifying purely from a ticketing element, but looking at the longer consumer journey, your consumer here being the people who are hosting the events, and seeing how you can solve some of their problems.
So it's not even diversifying.
Yeah.
For me, it's if I'm able to only provide you X, then we all remain just
where we are.
We'll just continue all eating the small piece of pie.
Yeah.
But there's a certain language, and this is something that I've also been able to use all the years in all the businesses I've had. There's a translation between the creative person and the person with money. There's like a guy who sits in the middle to say, what they're saying is
X, X, and X.
And so put this so this happens. That's what we're currently doing, where we're able to then we hold a lot of data. That's the thing that technology provides. I am able to make sure bets on giving money to Modoni because I know how it's going to come back, who it's going to come back from, what frequency it will come back in. And if there's a place where that curve looks like it's going down, I'll be able to see first because the money is all coming through me. So where there's an opportunity to have the biggest impact, which is the thing we want, is not for me to get into more countries or to do all that. It's to be able to see how the events that we have and the creators we have are able to access the resources they need to grow the ideas they have into profitable businesses. It takes time. People don't look at events like any business. It'll take 3 years for your business to go from idea to I'm a stable business. So, financially incorrect is now in the 3rd year, right? So we're getting to, if we finish this year strong, we can now go and say we're a stable product. We've been able to survive this part, and now we can grow. 90% of businesses don't make it past 3 years, but event guys want to make it in 6 months. Or a year. So others put a statement. They've left. It's been too tough after 3 gigs. You guys are not cooperating. But the thing is, it will take time.
Yeah.
So the people who've put in time, we need to be able to back them, so that they can be able to realize that.
Finally, what's your financial philosophy right now? What's money like for you right now? I know at the beginning of the podcast you talked about the contentment that came after 2020. Yeah, but
well, now I have a daughter. And so I remember one day on the podcast he asked, is having children a good financial decision? Having children changes how you think about money.
Right.
Because for the first time, I've had to think about, I need to have money 15 years from now or 20 years from now. Because this kid hasn't started going to school, but if you have any friends with kids in school, it's eating them to pay unreasonable amounts of money for PP1 or whatever they call it.
KG1.
There's so many layers of money you need to lose to educate this human that it teaches you how to think. So now I'm thinking, even in the way I do stuff, I need to think long term. I need things that make constant money regularly. It doesn't have to be 2 million. I'm not chasing that big deal so that I can take my family on holiday. For me, what's the most important thing is that the regular money comes in and it can keep increasing or improving in value, that I can reduce my costs as much as possible. So that's an important thing for me. It's like keep the outside as little, because Nairobi, you've seen the meme. You come out like this, 12,000 gone just for stepping out of the house.
Yeah.
So if I can live a simple life, comfortable, eat good, sleep good, and make sure my kid can go to school and get the resources they need for the next couple of years, that's the thing that's important to me.
Okay. Yeah. So my last question on that is, because we've talked about this business, and I think at a good extent, and it seems like it's been an entertainment industry, and it seems like there's a ceiling, and now you're trying to break through that ceiling and try and find the facilities to break through this ceiling. In ensuring that you have money 15 years from now, 20 years from now, 25 years from now, do you think you're in the right business? And if you could respond to me in two ways. One, from the passion standpoint of, yes, I believe and we must, in the vision. And then from the practical standpoint of, okay, this is the math that we're looking at. This is the business case that we're looking at. My best case scenario, if everything remains constant, 15 years from now, what would that actually look like?
Are we in the right business? 100%. We're at a time now where this generation is inherently creative. We're all creating something. And the way to monetize, so we're moving from where Africa is the consumer to the creator that creates for the world. The thing that is involved with creating for the world is they're transactional. So there will be money to be made. You just need to be ready, right? And be positioned correct. So do I see potential 10 years, 15 years from now for more and more people to need to trade online and to collect their Mookh online? Yes. From a business perspective, right now I'm not doing 50% of the things in my strategy, right? And I'm making 1.5 times what I made before the pandemic when I was executing, right? So I have so many hats in the bag that I've tested and I know are powerful that we're not using, but there is more money in the game. There's more young people. They're spread out more across the country. They have more access to money from wherever they're getting it from. And so the numbers are saying if you continue to invest, if you inject a little bit more into the theater scene, into the live music scene, into the community building, fashion, styling, whatever it is, makeup, if you invest into these industries, the opportunity to commercialize them is only getting higher. We need to maintain our integrity. We need to keep the machine flowing and evolving. We need to keep building and innovating. So, you know, a lot of people who will copy what we've been doing are copying the 2018 version. There's a 2025 version about to come out, right?
Right.
And so keep disrupting yourself to innovate for the time of now.
Yeah.
The guys we were building for in 2015 are not the same people we are building for today, but we've kept the same focus on who our consumer is, which is young people. And so I'm not my own target market.
Right.
Me, I make decisions around entertainment based on
In a
too many
different way.
factors.
Right.
There are people who just wake up and say, Twende.
Right.
Those are the guys we're serving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very comprehensive answer. Man, thanks so much for coming. Thanks so much for giving us your money story and the philosophy. I think there's a lot of learning to be done on this episode. I've learned a lot. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. It was fantastic. It was great to hear about Code Red, the existence, the journey, the understanding behind the business of it. Also great to hear about the journey of Mookh, and also just continue to highlight the strife that entrepreneurs go through and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. So just fantastic journey altogether, I think. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you again for coming on Financially Incorrect. And we will see you guys next Friday for the next episode of Financially Incorrect.